Good morning or afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeremy Walsh, and I am the Director of Support, Training, and Documentation for BNI Connect. I'd like to welcome everybody to the webinar today. Today's webinar is called BNI Connect Member Tools and Reports. And what we're going to do is we're going to dig a little bit deeper into BNI Connect today and look at some things that you may not have clicked through to before. This is going to include a couple of helpful tools for you as a member that can help you to things like register guests and send out invitations to potential visitors, up through a bunch of statistical reports and other things that may allow you to get more information about your membership and your chapter. Before we get started on today's content, just a couple of housekeeping things. The first of which is that this is a live webinar. If you have any questions at all during this webinar, please feel free to ask those questions. We're scheduled for about 30 minutes worth of content, so I like to be respectful of people's times. I know we're all busy entrepreneurs, need to get back to what you were doing while still learning a little bit more about BNI Connect. That being said, if you do have questions, this is what I do all day, every day. I answer questions about BNI Connect. I'd be happy to do that here live and in person rather than via email, so please feel free. I will stay as long as necessary until every single question does get answered. We are recording this webinar so that you can use it later. You can share it with your chapter members. You can refer back to it. We store these recorded webinars in two different locations. You can always access them by going to the support site. You get to the support site by clicking this question mark in the upper right-hand corner of BNI Connect. That will bring you over to the support site. And here, once you scroll down past the list of upcoming webinars, you'll see Chapter Training and Documentation. And in here, you'll see all of the webinars cataloged on a monthly basis. So you can go back further in time if you'd like to, or you can look at April's webinars, and I'll have today's copy up there soon. So you can see we have our series already there. You can watch them directly in the window, or of course you can go to our YouTube site, which is youtube.com/BNI Connect Global. And by going directly here, you can see a ton of additional videos. So not just the webinars, but there's also things like 3 to 5 minute educational moment videos on just very specific functions in BNI Connect. Of course, our regular webinar series, we also have some special things like announcements from Dr. Meisner and all things BNI Connect related up here on our YouTube channel. So if you subscribe there, you will get notified whenever a new video is uploaded as well. So please do join us up there. But now let's talk about today's topic, which again is the tools and reports that most members should have access to here in BNI Connect. First things first, when you are on the home screen, of course, this is going to show you a lot of information about your membership. This is, of course, where we go in to do our weekly submitting of slips and things like that. We also have a snapshot of your membership here, which is all of the referrals passed from visitors and things like that. However, there is a report that's accessible right here on the home page that you may not have clicked through to, and that is the Personal Participation Report, or it's also referred to as the Personal POMS Report. Clicking on this will give you a detailed view of the last 12 months of your membership. So be sure to click on this. And what this does is it takes your name out of the chapter's POMS reports and shows you exactly what you've been credited for on a week-by-week basis. This is also a really, really helpful report for troubleshooting. If you've ever thought, you know what, it says that I've been absent twice, but I don't remember being absent that many times, you can go back to this report and pinpoint exactly which date it was that you were marked absent or late or what have you, and be able to go back to the vice president and say, I think there might have been a mistake, or be able to just say, you know what, I guess that is correct. I was really absent that day, or maybe my substitute didn't show up. So you can go through, you can look at all of these. It gives you a summary. It also shows you how many members you've sponsored within that time period. And finally, the training information, so different trainings that you've attended over that time period. On the home page, there's, of course, if you are participating in the Slips program, there are all of the Review My Slips. One thing that people may not realize is that these various reports for reviewing your submitted slips contain a whole bunch of information that you might not have really picked up on before. For example, if I were to go in and review my thank you for closed business slips, one thing that this can show me is not just the details of the slips, but let me go back. I've been submitting slips since it was released in 2012. So I'm going to go back to 2012 and take a look at all the slips that I've submitted during this time period. Now, of course, this is going to show me just by looking at it, what is my grand total that I've attributed to making in my membership. So that's revenue received in my business, obviously. But you can go back and look, hey, wonder who my best referral source is, who is generating the most amount of business for my membership. Well, by sorting this, let's say by the amount, I can review this and say, you know what, let's see. I have some heavy hitters up here at the top of the list. Looking at this, I may want to go back and make sure that I'm thanking them, especially on things like recurring revenue. For example, Angela Moon here in my chapter. She is a mortgage broker. Really, we don't pass a whole lot of business back and forth, but she passed me a couple of referrals really 5 years ago that continue to generate quite a bit of money for my business on a yearly basis. This is something that if we want to stay in good graces with our referral sources, we want to keep track of from year to year to year in order to say thank you for generating all that business. And it's the same thing with the referral slips and the one-to-one slips. The referral slips, you can find out who you're giving the most referrals to. Who is your best referral partner in the chapter? Same thing with one-to-one slips. I should be able to look at the 6-month report and who are you doing one-to-ones with regularly? Is that person that you had a really good relationship with still on this list of recent one-to-ones? This really helps you to strategize your time, to strategize your meetings with other people, and make sure that you're making the most out of your relationships in BNI. All right, but as promised, we really need to go beyond the home screen here, and we need to look at some of the things a little bit deeper in BNI Connect. And to do that, we do need to go into these menus up along the top. Now, most members will have, at the very least, access to Network, Operations, and Reports. A lot of people say, well, I don't know where to go. I don't know where to find stuff in BNI Connect. And let me tell you how I remember where to go. Network is always going to be all the social media or networking things that you're going to be doing in BNI Connect. So things like accessing the groups or the discussion groups in BNI Connect, or the connections interface, which is really your BNI address book that we store for you here in BNI Connect, and the testimonials, the picture gallery. So that's the network menu. Now, operations and reports. Reports are always going to be read only. So if you're looking for statistics, you're looking for information, you're trying to get stuff out of BNI Connect, you're going to go to reports. The thing with reports is that you can never input anything into the reports through that menu. If you want to do something in BNI Connect, you're always going to look under operations. That's really your day-to-day management of your membership and your chapter. So let's take a look at the operations menu first, and let's see what stuff is located there. So I'm going to go to operations. I'm going to go to the chapter level. And along the left-hand side, what you'll see is the different menu items once we're in here. Things like the visitor management and the meeting management. Now, before you start clicking on stuff, you say, well, I don't see the same things that you're seeing. One thing to keep in mind is that you will see things based on your membership level in BNI, or really what roles you have in your chapter. So, for example, let's just look at meeting management here for a second. Most people will be able to see this View Summary POMs report, which allows you to look at individual POM reports. However, most people will not see Enter POMs or View Edit Speakers. In order to see those options, you would need to be, for example, a vice president or somebody that has been given permissions to enter the POMs reports on a weekly basis. You probably aren't able to see the view edit speakers unless you're a secretary treasurer, because those are the people that would be doing that data entry in the system. I just want to take a look at a couple of things that I know everybody should have access to, however, here in BNI Connect. The first thing I want to show you is this create email function. Now, there's a couple of really useful tools under here for you as a member. The first of which is this very first option, email my chapter. Have you ever gone scrounging around looking through all your old emails trying to figure out, well, I need to get this email out to all the people in my chapter, but I don't have an email address list. This is where you can get that information. So I could click on email my chapter, and what this is going to do is to give me a current email address list for all of the members in my chapter. The great thing about it is, unlike going back to your old emails and hitting reply all, this is a current list. So it includes, the new members that have just been added. It also no longer includes the dropped members. So all I need to do is to highlight these. I can drag that, or I can hit Control A when I'm clicked in here, and then Control C for copy, or right click and choose copy. And from here, what I want to do is just start up my own email program. And I always recommend putting this into the BCC field. One of the reasons for that is that once you send this message, that will make sure that this email address list doesn't really get out there if they forward it beyond the chapter. And that's how you get added to people's spam lists. The other reason is that when people hit reply all, it won't be sending those, yes, I got it, yes, okay, emails to the entire chapter, which tends to annoy all the people on the list. Now, the second option in here is another really cool option, and this allows you to email a visitor invitation to somebody. This really helps to simplify the inviting process. A lot of times when we're out and about and we're doing our networking, or we come across somebody that would like to come and visit our chapter, let's say that we're out at the chamber business after hours. We're doing a little after hours networking, and we come across somebody who says, hey, would you like to come visit my BNI chapter? Say, you know what? Yes, that's great. And well, you just have to go to the Elks Club, take a left on Palm Street, and then take a right over here, and we can never really get all the information across to them effectively. Or we have to go back to our offices and look up where all this is and send them a big long email about it. This takes the pain out of that by automating that process for you. So all we have to do is put in the person's name. So let's say I was at this networking event and I meet John Smith. I type in John Smith, I put in his company name, Smith Co., and his email address. Now, what I'm going to do here, and you're welcome to try this as well, I'm going to put my own email address in so that it sends me the invitation. It would help if I actually put the @ symbol in. And then I'm going to put a personal message. The personal message, what this does is it takes this information and puts it into an email template and sends it out. The personal message will be the first introductory paragraph of this email. So I could say something like, it was great meeting you at the Chamber After Hours event. I would love to introduce you to my referral team. So I'm going to go ahead and click send. It's going to take that, package it up all nice, and put it into an email and send it off to the email address that I input. Of course, that was my email address, and I just received this message, and here's what it looks like. Here's at the top, it's a nice branded, eye-catching invitation. It then customizes it. Dear John, it was great meeting you. So this is that first paragraph, the introductory paragraph introducing myself. It was great meeting you at the Chamber After Hours. I would love to introduce you to my referral team. And from here on, BNI Connect takes over and inputs all the pertinent information for you. So it puts in the name of your chapter, where you meet, the address, what day, what time you meet. So you don't have to think of all this. You don't have to type it all out. It puts it in there for you. One of the other things that we always struggle with inviting people is figuring out what to say about BNI. A lot of times we say too much or we say too little. We don't know exactly how to phrase it. This puts a nice one short paragraph about what BNI is, lets them know that we're looking for somebody in their profession, and to RSVP with you. Now, if they hit reply, this will go back to your email address on record. So this response is going back to you. And really, that's all there is to it. Once the email goes out, they can respond to you. The next part of this is that there's a great tool for now registering your visitors for upcoming meetings. And that's done, again, through this operations menu. So now that you've invited them, they said, yes, I would like to come to the meeting. You can go ahead and under Manage Visitors, you can register a prospective visitor. Now, this is a great tool because what it does is, A, it makes your visitor host life a little bit easier, but B, it starts an email conversation with this prospective visitor as well as with your chapter. So if I was to register somebody here to visit my chapter, that person, let's say it was John Smith, would get an email saying, hey, congratulations, thank you for registering to visit. Please be sure to bring plenty of business cards, and here's the address location just in case you need it again. It'll also send them a reminder 2 days before the meeting, again, reminding them that they had signed up for the meeting and also giving them the address details once again. But even better, it sends a notification to your president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, all your visitor hosts, and your director, letting them know, hey, somebody is coming to visit the chapter this week. Make sure you're going to welcome them. You may want to follow up with them ahead of time as well. And you can do all that just by filling out this quick form for registering a prospective visitor. All right, there's some other stuff here under the various operations menu, again, depending on what your level of access is. For example, if you're a mentor coordinator, being able to view and assign mentor-mentee pairs, or if you're on the leadership team, being able to enter goals. But I'd like to spend some time on things that all members have access to and take a look at some of the reports that are in the system as well. So if I go to the reports menu, you can see that there is a boatload of reports. There's, I believe there's like 15 reports or 20 reports altogether here that you should have access to. I'm not going to go through them all today, one by one by one. If you'd like to, you are more than welcome to jump into BNI Connect and play with the reports. You really can't break anything when it comes to reports, so feel free to click through all of them and see what they do. What I'd like to do is to just highlight a couple of them that I think are the best reports for me as a member. And by the way, I am a member. I still go to weekly chapter meetings. I'm in the Wakefield chapter here in Rhode Island. And these are the reports that I use on a regular basis, both in my role as a member, as well as being a director consultant and when I've been on the leadership team as well. All right, so the first report that I really like is this chapter roster report. And this is exactly what it says it is. It's just a chapter roster, which seems pretty straightforward and simple. But what's important about this report, besides the fact that it lists all of the members, I can also get their phone numbers here in case I need to give somebody a call. But we have a pretty big chapter. We have about 50 members in our chapter. So it's hard to keep track of who's what in the chapter. Who's on the membership committee, who's the mentor coordinator, who's the events coordinator, who's the educational coordinator. So if I have something I need to suggest or bring up with one of these people, this is helpful to be able to say, oh yeah, you know what, it's Greg Bressler that is the education coordinator. So I can go back and say, Greg, I was thinking maybe you want to do an educational moment on making sure that everybody's showing up on time. I've been seeing a lot of people lately. Same thing with your director consultant. If you need to get in touch with your director consultant, their name will be listed here as well as their phone number so that you can give them a call if you have anything you need to discuss with them. The second report that's really helpful, again, is the membership dues report. Now, the membership dues report is where you can look to see when your next due date is, or which members are renewing in your chapter. So I could find myself on this list. I can make sure that I am all set for an upcoming renewal. So I'm not due until March of 2016. So I don't need to worry about it right now. If you happen to be on the membership committee or reviewing people, this is also a great way to look and see, make sure your referral partners, the people that you do the most business with, check to see when they're up for renewal as well. Because you want to make sure that your referral partners stay in your chapter so you can continue to do business with them. All right, and I know it seems like I'm going through everyone in order, but I will be skipping a couple soon. But these top ones, this member meeting notes report is another great report that we use in our chapter every single week. And here's what it is. Very simply, it's kind of like the roster report, except all it has is the name and the company name and a place to take notes. One of the best ways that you can increase the number of referrals that you're able to give in your chapter is by making sure that you're paying attention to what people are asking for in their weekly presentations. Just the act of writing this down as people are speaking, writing down a couple of notes, what did they talk about, what did they ask for, some memorable part of their presentation, will help your mind to remember that throughout the week. Even if you write it down and then you leave that piece of paper on the front seat of your car the whole week, or even if you throw it out on your way out the door, just that act of writing it down is extremely helpful in solidifying that memory. Now, as with all reports in BNI Connect, these reports can be printed, and this is a report specifically designed to be printed so that you can write things down during the meeting. But reports in BNI Connect can also be exported. Now, what you'll notice is that on all of the reports, just about all the reports will have two buttons, export without headers and export. Both of these do very similar things in that they get the information and they drop it out into an Excel format. Now, exporting it will include everything that you see on the screen, including what we call the headers, which is all this information up at the top. So let's just click that and I'll show you what that looks like. So once I get this now in Excel, so you can see that I have this out in Excel now. And because I included the headers, I just did an export, you'll see up at the top that it has all of the information about the report, when I ran it, who ran it. Unfortunately, though, with that, it means that the formatting up here is kind of a little bit funky. So it's kind of hard to, with the merged cells, to resize things. So that's why a lot of reports have what's called export without headers, which will just put in the bottom amount of information. So I'm going to go ahead and open this one up. Now you'll see it doesn't include all that stuff at the top. Quick Excel trick is my favorite button in Excel, is this format as table, which allows you to do some pretty fun things. Once I format this as a table, I think it's a yellow kind of day. I'm going to choose a yellow format. Now I can do things like sort this much, much easier by first name or last name, or maybe I even want to sort it by the company name. You can do filters and things like that. Now, the notes report, you probably want to make it a little bit bigger and have a little bit more room for taking notes before you print it out. So that's really what Excel is great for, is it allows you to have full control over the reporting aspect, or the printing aspect of the report. You can even, if you are more of a computer person, you can just take notes dynamically during the meeting this way by getting it out to Excel first. The Summary Palms report is pretty straightforward. The only thing about this is that you want to make sure that you are looking at whether or not you want to look at the dropped member names or not. And you can run this report if you're curious about your chapter and let's say your lifetime statistics for the chapter. You can run this report really for any time period. I mean, I can run this actually back to, before BNI even began, if I want to make sure I'm getting the full statistics from the start date of my chapter, and figure out the stats for my chapter going back in time. All right, I'm going to skip down a couple of reports now and look at the classifications not in chapter report. See, I told you I'd skip one eventually. The absence report is a good report, though. But the classifications not in chapter report, again, seems like a very simplified report when we run it, but it really contains quite a bit of information that's very relevant to us as members. What this does is it gives you a list of all the classifications or categories that are not being represented in your chapter. But more important than that, what it does is it tells you how many other chapters in your region have that profession covered already. Now, this is an important piece of information because it means that those various industries are probably pretty popular in your area. So it's much easier to invite somebody by being able to say, hey, yeah, you're a business attorney. Yeah, there's a lot of BNI chapters in our area that have business attorneys. They must be doing something right, then that is a successful category that is very well represented, which also means that you are not competing against other chapters for that same profession. So there's very little chance that they'll come to your chapter, visit, and then just go try to apply at a different chapter because their seat is already taken. So this is a good place to start when you are looking to invite people. Now, you do need to keep in mind that because of the way categories are in BNI Connect, there's 5 different categories that could be very, very similar. You definitely want to look at these. So, for example, the general category of mortgages is not covered on chapter, but we do have a residential mortgage broker in our chapter. So I do have to be a little bit careful with that particular part of the report. But I can see that, litigation attorney, business attorney, remodeling, plumber, these are all different categories that I can turn to try to invite people. This also is an extremely long list. So if you're just looking for ideas of other possible categories besides just the ones that we think of on a daily basis, take a scroll through this list and you'll see tons and tons, about 450 altogether, categories of people that have been in BNI at some point or another because the category had to be created for it. Things like weight loss and auctions and chef and travel memberships and genealogists and online coupons, engraving services, electrical goods. All of these are good ideas for people to invite for the chapter to come and visit. Now, the Personal POMS report, if you remember from the home screen, we had the Personal Participation report. This is the exact same report. The only difference is that you can run this for any length of time. So again, if you'd like to go back to the beginning of your membership, you can also run this report for other members of your chapter if you're interested. And then scrolling down a little bit, I just have 2 more reports that I want to show you. One is the member details report. So one of the things that we're often taught in BNI is that before we do a one-to-one with somebody, we should do what we call a gains exchange. Of course, gains stands for goals, accomplishments, interests, networks, and skills. And before we sit down with a one-to-one, we should be sending the other person our gains information. And the reason for that is it really helps to jumpstart the conversation when you do sit down with them. Because there's a lot of things that we write down in our bio, in our gains profile, in our tops profile, that we may not necessarily say out loud, especially things like accolades or awards or interesting things about yourself. So by looking this information up on another person's profile before you meet with them, you're essentially doing a gains exchange with them. This will make your one-to-ones much more effective. So for example, let's say that somebody was going to be doing a one-to-one with me. They should go in, they should maybe click on View Gains. They choose my name from the list and click Go. They could then review my gains profile here. They could also click over and view my bio or my tops or read one of my weekly presentations. All this will, again, help to jumpstart that meeting. All right, so we are at the bottom of the hour. Just one final thing to show you. Now that you've gone through and you've started poking around and looking at some of the reports and the operations and things like that, if we go back to the home screen, there's a very special shortcut menu that you can start to customize with all of your favorite things that you do in BNI Connect. So if you look under My BNI Business, you'll notice this is kind of a slider bar. We can go to My Network and see all the networking functions. And then if I click on Chapter, what this is a shortcut list to all of your favorite things that you do in BNI Connect. Now, you can configure this to be the way you want it to be. So if I click Configure, I can choose what's showing up in that shortcut list. So things on the left, that's my shortcut list. Now, let's say that I have the register a prospective visitor, and I want to make sure that that's in my shortcut list. I can put a checkbox in it, and then I can even drag and drop this. Let's say I want that to be top of my list. I can also look up things like visitor, make sure I have all things. If I'm a visitor host, make sure all things related to visitors are in my list. Again, I can rearrange things, and then when I'm ready, I'm going to submit this and close the window. And you'll see that my chapter list is going to refresh. And now right at the top, I have register a prospective visitor. So now I don't have to remember where it is. I don't have to go to operations, chapter, manage visitor, register a prospective visitor. I can just go to my shortcut menu and click register a prospective visitor, and it pops up right away. And similarly, if I wanted to just send an email invitation, I could just click on email visitor invitation, and that will pop up right away. So it puts things within one click instead of having to click through the menus if you prefer that. All right, so again, we are at the bottom of the hours. I want to make sure that people are can get off to their next appointment with enough time. I would like to, at this point, open this up to any questions, though. As I said earlier, I am happy to hang out and answer questions until every single question is answered. So do you have any questions? The best thing to do is to type your questions in, and I will be happy to answer them. While you're thinking of any last-minute questions, a couple of reminders. Again, this is being recorded. It will be made available on the support site. You can get to the support site by clicking on this question mark in the upper right-hand corner. You can also go to support.bniconnect.com. They'll also be on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/BNI Connect Global. I would also absolutely love it if you gave us a like on Facebook, facebook.com/BNI Connect Global. We do webinar announcements and reminders and tips and tricks and all sorts of stuff up here on our our Facebook channel as well. So please do give us a like up there. Gail Williams on the call with us today. She, as an executive director and not a current member, can I still use the My BNI Business section? So this My BNI Business section is a member-only function. So you do have to have an active chapter membership in order to have access to the My BNI Business. Now, that being said, if you would like to test that feature out, we do have a couple of exclusive directors chapters up in Antarctica that I'd be happy to add you to so that you can see the function and help troubleshoot it for members and things like that. The data in it won't be real. You will just be participating with other directors that are in the similar situation that are up there in Antarctica. But if you're interested in that, Gail, if you could just shoot me an email, support@bniconnect.com, and I'd be happy to process that membership. I have an in with the membership committee up there. All right. Any other questions? Let's see. On some reports, the right column, some say completed and some say draft. What is the difference? Excellent question. So in the member module, in this passing of slips, so for example, I pulled up my, let me pull up my referral slips that I've passed in. So you'll notice that some of these say completed and some of these say draft. That means that my vice president has not yet completed the POMS report for this week. So this past weekly meeting on the 8th, last Thursday, I submitted these slips before the meeting, but my vice president has not gone in and submitted the POMS report yet. The ones earlier have been submitted, so they're going to show up as completed. One of the differences is that these two referrals, because they have not yet been submitted, will not appear in my BNI business report, and they also won't appear in any of the POMS reports or anything like that. So they're not showing up as part of my statistics. Once they submit it, all the rest of the reports and numbers will be updated accordingly. So does that help? Does that answer your question, Gail? Excellent. And if you could just, as far as the Antarctica chapter, just shoot me an email, please, support@bniconnect.com. And just say, please add me to the Antarctica chapter, and either myself or Larry or Riaz or Frank, one of us, will get you added in as quickly as possible. All right, let's see. Isabel asks, I've been a member for 6 months and paid for a yearly subscription, but I want to do a 2-year subscription. How can I do that? Isabel, the best thing to do is to talk to your regional office. So I'm not sure where you're a member. I can probably find out, though. If you don't mind, I can let you know who to get in touch with, and you can talk to your executive director or regional office. Let's see. So Isabel, you're in Utah. So the best thing to do is to talk to your regional office. That's going to be Kip Kint or Dan Rawls. If you go to bniutah.com, or I'm sorry, it's Utah BNI. So you can, here's the contact information. There's the phone number for you, 801-613-7755. And they should be able to help you out with either updating to a 2-year, or you can even process a new 2-year renewal, and you'll end up with 2 years and 6 months left on your membership. So does that help, Isabel? But yeah, Dan or Sarah or Cameron, they should be able to help you out with that. All right, what other questions? Any other questions? All right, well, if there's no additional questions, I would like to thank everybody for their time today. A good referral for me is to please take a look at the upcoming list of webinars. If you could let other people know about these webinars, people in your chapter, or as an executive director, informing the people in your region about these webinars, that would be great. Our very next webinar is going to be Wednesday, and we're going to be going through the chapter web pages. So if you're interested in being a chapter webmaster or wondering what your web pages can do, that is the webinar to attend this coming Wednesday at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. And then after that, on Thursday, we're going to be going through the whole visitor process. So I talked about a little bit of it today with the invitations and the registrations. We're going to go deep, deep into that. And then again, next week, we're going to be doing some leadership team webinars. So please do join us for any of those. And a good referral for me is to send along that registration link to somebody. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here, and I look forward to seeing you on a future webinar. Happy connecting.